Hello everybody, this is Bird Brain. We are nerdy for the birdies. Week 2 of free agency has concluded. I am recording this after midnight on Monday morning. And we're going to recap last week's moves, which I found a consistent theme among those moves. So let's get into it and let's not waste time. And what that theme really was to me was the idea of insulation. And what I mean by that is insulating the roster from having to enter the draft in a situation where you need things. And I've seen people talk about like certain position groups on the roster where it's like, oh, the Eagles need to do this, they need to do that. And yeah, they do, but at the same time, they've gathered players that if they're unable to, say, get a premier player at certain positions, they have serviceable starters. Again, you can't start all pros all over the team. It's just impossible to build teams like that. It's really hard. So a lot of the moves this week, you're going to hear me use that word over and over again because they all kind of correlate in this idea of filling out certain position groups and potential future moves for this team. Starting off with the first signing of the week, Hollywood Brown. Marquise Brown, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma, makes his way to Philadelphia, played for the Ravens, the Cardinals, and the Chiefs over the course of his career. And to me, the way I look at this is a good middle ground type move at receiver. I'm not going to get into this. The whole A.J. Brown thing is obviously in the air. In my personal opinion, I do think he is going to end up getting traded in June. And the Eagles needed depth at receiver because behind Devontae Smith, it's a lot of question marks. Darius Cooper hasn't played a ton. Does he have chemistry with Jalen? Johnny Wilson, has he gotten better with his hands? Was the stuff, the little glimpses of growth in the preseason and training camp last year, is that going to stick? Again, he missed an entire season with an injury. You have Britton Covey. He's never really been much of a receiver for this team. And after that, there just really wasn't a lot left on this roster. There was a lot of question marks. So they needed somebody at that position. And with Marquise Brown, he brings speed, he brings experience. He's a solid receiver. He's not quite as fast as he used to be, but he's still pretty speedy. Watching over some of his games from last year, he could still get open downfield quite a bit. So I think they'll definitely use him in that way. And at least it ensures that some wide receiver with the last name Brown will be on this team. And before you ask, no, he's not related to AJ. He's related to Antonio Brown. That's a whole other conversation. But anyway, at least in this way, you're insulated so that if you do lose AJ Brown in the trade, you at least have another veteran experienced receiver on this roster to play alongside Devontae Smith and, of course, Jalen Hurts. Then, the Eagles made an interesting trade, trading a future 7th round pick for Andy Dalton on the Carolina Panthers. Andy Dalton has bounced around the league, primarily known for his time on the Bengals. He's been on the Cowboys, the Bears, the Saints, and of course, the Panthers. So, in my opinion, I see this move as, at bare minimum, he's your QB3, he's your veteran guy in the locker room, whatever, you don't have to think that deeply about it. And I also think that, again, this insulates them in a different way, so that if they do trade Tanner McKee, which as of today we've heard rumors about the asking price, which apparently it's a 2nd round pick, if the Eagles do move Tanner McKee this year, it'll be interesting to see how that goes down. They at least have a backup on the roster who is capable of starting games if anything were to happen to Jalen. Right? With Andy Dalton, if you told him he had to start for a month, could you go 2-2? I think he can go 2-2 with this roster. So, that's how I look at that move. Then the Eagles signed Stone Smart, the tight end, who had played a good chunk of his career on the Chargers and then also spent some time with the Jets last season. Stone Smart hasn't necessarily put up large numbers in his career, just about 300 yards and a touchdown. But one thing I noticed with him, he gets some nice chunk plays when he gets catches. He can block. There's that viral clip of him in the preseason last year against Abdul Carter, chipping him, and he kind of blindsides him. Abdul goes to the ground, and everyone's, making their jokes about it. But the thing is, I see this as competition again in the tight end room, primarily with someone like Johnny Munt to see who's going to be that blocking tight end. Because it's not just about who blocks better, but if they have that receiving upside as well, then I could see that being a deciding factor on who makes the team and who doesn't. And then the Eagles surprised us with a move. Dameon Pierce, the running back from the Houston Texans. If you guys remember in 2022 when the Eagles took on the Texans, Dameon Pierce had quite a game against us, putting up over 100 yards, It just felt like the defense really couldn't really get him down in that game. He just kept running through the defense. He was about all of the offense the Texans had that game. They were really depleted at certain positions, like receiver, but it kept him in the game for a while, and the Eagles get him on this team now. He hasn't had much of a career since his rookie year, but to me, I look at this as competition for Will Shipley. The Eagles are looking to make moves to improve their special teams, and I'll talk about how else they can do that with a move they made later. You think about last year, the returner issues. Dameon Pierce has experience returning kicks. He has a kickoff returning touchdown in his career. He's pretty good at it, so I can see him competing with Will Shipley for that RB3 kick returner type role. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in with the running back room. And then, of course, we had some big moves at safety on Friday, starting off with the Sidney Brown trade. He was traded to the Atlanta Falcons in a pick swap where basically the Eagles move up in the 4th and 6th round, giving up their own 4th and 6th round picks to the Falcons, so they just swapped to a 4th and a 6th with a 4th and a 6th. So they just basically gained draft position off that move, and this makes sense. I mean, Sidney Brown was really an afterthought for the safety competition, especially going into this season, by fans, and I honestly think coaches too. I just don't think he fits this current regime as well, but we do wish him luck. And look, he made some plays for the Eagles. He had that pick 6 as a rookie. He's had some great plays on special teams. He had the block punt return touchdown for us this past year. He had I think he had at least one interception in 2024 as well against the Giants. I think that was like the last play of the regular season before the playoff run. So with Sidney Brown, he contributed a lot to special teams, but yeah, his role in this team just diminished year by year, and I just don't think he quite fit in with the current regime. So we wish him luck. But the Eagles made 2 corresponding signings almost immediately after the trade was announced. First, they brought back Marcus Epps, and this is again where I'm going to bring up insulation. And safety has been the hot button position for this roster going into the season. A lot of questions about what are they going to do opposite of Makuba, if even Makuba is ready to be a starter. It looks like it'll be Makuba and Epps until someone pushes them out of that role. And I feel like this is a good floor for the safety room. I don't think it's the best possible safety room they can have, but it's a good floor. And Epps is that idea that, hey, if we can't get a safety high in the draft because one just doesn't come to us on the board, fine. We'll have Epps and he can start and be a solid safety for us, and we'll work around that in other ways. And then the Eagles also signed J.T. Gray. Now, to me, this is a move that's literally just to replace Sidney Brown on special teams, because J.T. Gray is a good special teamer. He actually was a Pro Bowl special teamer, I think in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. He actually ended up blocking a punt against us when we played the Saints in 2024 as well. It's someone that, again, is a savvy special teamer, special team tackler. That's purely what his role is, and that's all I don't think he's going to get much, if any, defensive work, but yeah, so that's kind of been what the Eagles have done this week. Again, nothing too crazy. It's been mostly moves that are kind of getting the roster ready as we start to pivot more towards the draft. So, anyways, this has been Bird Brain. Hope you guys enjoyed being nerdy today. Fly Eagles fly. See you around.